Hello, and welcome back to the tile making tutorial for Europe Universalis 4. So in this video we're going to be adding provinces to our map. Actual provinces, not just test provinces. The ones that we want to actually make the tile have. So if you recall, we already have provinces on our map, technically, but they're really big and bad, and you wouldn't want to play with them. So what we're going to be doing is making provinces that we'd actually want to play with. So let me show you how to do that. First things first, when making a province map, we want to have an idea of where the rivers and topographical features of our landmass are, so that we can draw around them. So what I'm going to do here is reduce my height maps to opacity to around 60%, which shows me a river map underneath it. Then I'm going to take my river map and decrease its opacity to really low, because it's easy to see the rivers. I'm going to say about there, like 20 or so. And so now we can see our province map, if only barely. And we can also see where the rivers and mountains are. Now, just so we can get a province map ready for what we want to do to it, I'm going to hide the other two layers, like so, and collapse them too, to give us a bit more room. So what we already have in our province map is one layer that holds our land provinces, such as they are, and another layer that holds our sea provinces, such as they are. Now, all of our provinces right now, I believe, are just too big. They're too big to be good for gameplay, and they're certainly too big for an island like ours. We want to pack some more provinces onto here. And so the first thing I'd like to do is chop up these sea provinces a bit. So to do that, let's start afresh. I'm just going to delete everything on the sea province layer. Everything on the sea province layer. There we go. Okay, so now let's draw some new ones. So I'm going to set myself to hue 180, saturation 100, value 100. 180 gives us a nice deep blue, which means it's the default, well, let me say the industry standard for sea provinces. And I'm going to lower the opacity value for my province map so that we can see our sea provinces when we draw them under it. So we're going to do like that. Oh, actually, let me hold shift first. That gives me a nice straight line, so I'm using my pencil tool. Yeah, that'll do for one province. Connect it up, and then fill it in. So, you'll remember from the last video, or the one before it, I believe. Yeah, the one before the last video. When you make sea provinces, you have to define them by their specific RGB value in your text file. Now, it can be a real pain to do this every single time you draw a sea province, because it means you have to stop, record the RGB value, type something into your text file. It really slows you down. So in the course of making my other tiles, what I've done is I just compiled a list of all the RGB values for hue value 180 from S100 through values 100 to 40, then S95 values 140, following that pattern all the way down to S65, and then I skip to H200 values through S100, S95, and S90, went up to H210, and I'm using this for lake provinces just because it's a different shade of blue, and it helps you tell things apart. And I did the same thing here for that H value down to about S90. So overall, if you just, and I'm going to put this file in the description just so that you can use it, there's about 130, well there's exactly 130 sea provinces defined here, and I think 65 lake provinces. So let me show you, you'll see in a second, but this is actually a very useful list because you can just go and go and go and go, and then look at where you've stopped when you've made all your sea provinces, and copy all of the sea province definitions here that I've made up until that point. And let me show you how that works. So I made a sea province with H180, S100, V100. So now I'm going to decrease the V value to V95 and make another one. It can go, yeah, here to here, say. One more province. I'll bring the V value down to 90 now. One more province. 85. I'm just going by 5 each time. It's very procedural. Whoops. Compass this bay here. Fill it in. Down to 80. I'll make a little separate C province for this bay, because it's fairly large. There we go. Notice how I'm staying clear of the very edge of the map here. I want that to stay the empty color and not have any of my C provinces touch it. Down to 70. To 65. And you can see, right, this is a bit of a tedious process. You'll see it even clearer when we get to drawing land provinces, but the province drawing phase is easily the most time-consuming of the tile-making process. On large tiles, I've spent weeks and many long nights drawing in the province maps. So if this looks like it takes a long time, looks don't deceive. It really, really does. But it's worth it in the end. Okay, there's another one. And let's just make one more. There. To there. Okay. So you notice now we're at H180, S100, V45. I only ever go down to V40 when I do things, just because, as you can see, it gets very dark when you get close to 40, and it gets unrealistic. Well, not unrealistic. There's nothing realistic here. It's just it stops being useful once you get down V40. The colors are hard to tell apart. Not to the game, it can tell it apart, but to human eye, which is cause for error, and so on and so forth. So now I'll show you why this is so useful, right? I've said, okay, well, I know that we've drawn provinces, the colors everywhere from H180, S100, down from values 100 to 45. And I look here and I say, okay, so for H180, S100, values 100 to 40, these are all the definitions that I need. I know that I stopped one short of 40 because I'm at 45, so I copy all of them but the last one, and I paste them into my document. And now I have all of my C provinces defined, and I didn't have to type anything. I know that I have 12 of them, so I'll put in number of C provinces equals 12. Lovely. That's dealt with. Okay, so now I just have to draw my land provinces. So I'm going to bring my land province layer back up to 100. And I'm going to delete everything on here too. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to delete it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to color it white. 255, 255, 255. Why am I going to do that? Well, because here, I didn't do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is type in Wasteland underscore province equals 255, 255, 255, aka the white color. So now the game will define anything that it sees as white, as pure white, 255, 255, 255, as a wasteland province. And I'm going to just color my entire province map that. Why do I do this? Well, because when I'm drawing my provinces, it's useful to have it such that anything that I don't draw on is just by default a wasteland. Wasteland is a very nice default to have. So that's done. Now, how do I get drawn my provinces? Well, I pick a color and I do exactly what I did with the C provinces for the land. Now here it's useful to know about the topography and the rivers again. So remember we took down our opacity here so we could do that, so I'm going to reactivate these two. And now you get a sense of where the large mountains are and where our rivers are. And we can start drawing provinces based around that. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. like so. And I'm going to start around the coasts. It's nice to draw coastal provinces first. So I'm going to bring my saturation way up. So now it's H0, S100, V100, and that's going to give us a nice red color to work with. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Draw a province here. It's going to traverse this river here. And notice what I'm doing with the boundaries. Oops. Oh yeah, so very important. Don't draw land provinces out into the water. It's good to know. Because then you'll start having trees growing in the water and it'll look silly. Another thing, notice how I make the edges really, really wiggly. That looks good in game. Almost all the provinces in game look like that. And I'll show you, like, yeah, so here's another, no, I'll not show you my own work. I made that tile. Zoom in anywhere. And you'll notice that you've got these wiggly lines around provinces. And that's just the way the game works, and it's the way that looks good to the eye. So we're going to emulate that in our tiles. I've tried my best to emulate that when I did the other ones. Anyhow, and you can see just how bad a straight line looks. It looks so mechanical. It just screams I'm in debug mode right now. So now to make my new province, so that's one color. Remember, every province has to have a unique color. So I'm going to reduce the value by 5, and now I have a different color, and I'll draw myself another province. So like that. I tend to make my coastal provinces long and narrow, because that seems to look good. And also, like, when you have a lot of sea provinces and not when you have a lot of coastal provinces, not a terrible lot of land provinces, it gives the Europeans, or whoever else is colonizing, a lot of chances to get a foothold on wherever the place is, but it means that whoever gets into the interior first has an advantage, which is kind of the way it works in the base game. Color that in. Okay, from here on out, I'm going to speed up, because yes, this is a very tedious process, and there's no reason that you have to watch me do every single one in normal speed. So, sit back and watch how I do this. Here I'm following the contour of the river so that the river forms the boundary of another province. Kind of a nice look sometimes. Okay, so I've run to V40. I could keep going lower, but you can notice that it's getting kind of dark, and the darker it gets, the harder it is to tell the provinces apart. So instead of going to V35, I'm going to increase my saturation value to 95 and bring my V value back up to 100. And we're still using all new colors. Here's another trick for when you want to follow the contour of a river or something, without having to trace the whole thing really meticulously. Place one pixel where you want, place pixels between where you want your border to be. So for here, I'm not putting one here because there's a different color when it enters the water, and you'll see why that matters in a second. Now what I can do is I can go here to my paint bucket tool, and I'll go down and make threshold 0 and press this button called sample merged. What sample merged means is that whatever operation I'm using won't take into account the color as it is on the layer, period. It'll take into account that color that we actually see, which is the combination of the lightning and darkening effects of the layers above it. So when I press sample merged, when I click here, it does this. It colors the river colors the color of the river, and I've pressed fill similar colors, so it colors the color of the river as I see it here, and it stops here and it stops here, because as far as it's concerned, the color of the river stops there because it's sampling the merging of the sea provinces and the river map, and here, because I put this one pixel down, and my province map is included in the sample. So I can click here, and just like that, I've got my river boundary. Very convenient. Oh, and you notice here, see, why did it only fill those specific places? Because I still have sample merged on. And because of the height map, it makes those slightly different colors. So I'm going to take sample merged off and continue as I will. And now it only colors in the differences on this layer, aka the borders that I've drawn between provinces. Okay, so that's the coastline of our tile all provinced out. Zoom out to get a better look at it. There we go. So now would be a good time to decide whether or not we want any wasteland provinces. And if so, where would they go? So let's look at our tiling game for a second. We've got these two really big mountains. And while you could sort of picture provinces being on top of them, Wastelands, you know, they have a bit of an interesting role in gameplay. They can separate provinces, make choke points, and things like that. And that might be something we want to consider doing here, right? Maybe we have a really thin wasteland that just runs along this mountain peak, so that you can have provinces on the side that would get the mountain terrain, but at the same time aren't exactly able to touch each other because they've got this wasteland in between. So let's do that. So bearing that in mind, I'm not just going to draw the wasteland on right away. Rather, I'm going to draw provinces up to it, and then have them stop about halfway in the middle here. And I'm going to turn the opacity of my height map up, so that we have a better idea of where the wastelands actually are. And I've got it up really high here. It's at like 90%. So I'm going to draw a province that runs like this. Back down. And hiding the height map for a sec. I'll have it follow this river. So do the same thing we did earlier. Sample merged. Just like so. Very good. Okay, bring the height map back up. Remove sample merged. Fill in the province. Make another one on the other side of it. Like this. Yeah, like that. I'll go down here. It's going to be a decently sized one. And you see here, that's our wasteland, right? So in game, yeah, so this province right here, will go from around here down to, does it pass? That's pretty close to the ocean, down to around here. So there's probably a 50-50 chance of that taking the mountain terrain or taking the forest terrain. And maybe we'll make it a little bit smaller. Hide this for a moment. Just to encourage that it gets the mountain terrain. That'd be more interesting for gameplay. Why is it doing that? Ah, yes, right. I've got to use this tool because it was picking up interference from the height map that's over it, making everything a little lighter. And I'll do the same thing again with the sample merged. because it gets bigger, the river. Oh no, I don't have to have it there anyways. Okay, that's fine. And on this side too, let's say I take a little bit from this province. Get my color. Get right in there. Colored in. Okay. Mountain provinces are rare. It's nice to encourage them. Alright, now I have to remember to take back the color I was just working with, so I can keep going in a series, going down through that color. You don't want to lose the colors you're working with, because then you end up, if you lose track, then you draw the same color twice, and you end up with one province on the other side of the map. There's also a province on the other side of the map, and it causes problems. So pay attention to your color series and what you're working with. So let's bring our height map back, and we'll continue going along here. I want to say that there should be like, this valley should be traversable. So I'm not gonna bother drawing any breaks between provinces here. So I'm gonna draw a province that goes like this, following the contours of the land there, coming around like that. Oops. Take off sample merged. Come on. Yeah, there's another one. And let's have the same thing happen here. So I'm going to draw a province that goes like this. So it's going to be a really small one. Make it a little bigger. Goes like that. And another one that goes like... Don't want to have these two touching, right? It's kind of defeat the purpose. So I'll put another one in between them. Goes like that. Have it come down here like so. Like so. Take the river as its border. Sample merge with rivers doesn't exactly work when you have the height map on, because it adds too much interference. So just take it off for a moment if you want to use it. Like so. Bring it back up. Reset. And I remembered I wanted to have this one touching others, so I'll have it like this and like this. Great. And I'll have another one. This valley here. Just like that. Forms a connection between the two and also borders in that wasteland there. Okay, so let's just zoom out for a second and see what we've done. Out, not in. Right, so now we've got these two little wastelands high up in the mountains there, separating provinces on either side. And you can see that they'll have gameplay value now, right? Because this province and this province can't touch. They have to go through either of the ones around them. Same deal with this province and this province. And we'll make sure of that when we add another province there. So, you know, who knows what kind of wars that'll influence. It'll be interesting. Okay, so let's get the height map back up and keep drawing. And I'm going to increase the speed here. Okay, and that's everything. So let's take off our river map and our height map and look at what we've got. Okay, so there's a lot of provinces, and that one's a bit too big. So let's cut it in half, somewhere here. Oh, something I also want to mention. When you're designing provinces, it's often a good idea to make sure that their borders don't cross in a way where it's like that, right? Having 4 borders meet at the same time creates a lot of confusion in game because it's kind of hard to tell which province hits which. So whenever creating a province border, it's always best to try and aim for a border that isn't near the border of any other province. So I'm going to make something like that. And there we go. Now we see that this province goes there, this province can go there, and there, and there, and there, and there. But this province cannot go there adjacently. Makes a bit more sense. Okay, so our province map is just about done. It's fully populated with land and sea provinces. It's got those 2 little wasteland provinces there. Now, what we have to do is tell our text file just how many provinces our tile has. We've already told it how many sea provinces it has. Now we have to tell it how many land provinces it has. Now, thankfully, we don't actually have to count by hand all these tiny land provinces. There's a tool in GIMP that does that for us. So with our land province layer selected, we can go to Colors, Info, Color Cube Analysis. And that will count the number of unique colors on the layer that we've selected. And so now it's giving us 72, so we're like, okay, so there's 72 land provinces. And I've taken the liberty of actually counting them manually, and that's pretty close to the truth. So, close that. What we're going to do is go to our text file and say num land provinces equal 72. In fact, it's probably 71 because it counted the wasteland province as another color. So we're going to say 71. Size 3 times 3, content yes, and all that stuff is correct. So we're going to save this. So final step is to export this to our mods folder. So go export as, and then let's go to, right, we're in documents. So Paradox Interactive Forums, right, sorry, just Paradox Interactive, EU4, mod, find my new tile, map, random tiles data. We're going to overwrite our old province map image, export. Going to replace it, yes. Advanced options, remember it has to be 24 bits, so you have to go through this process every time and click 24 bits. Export. Okay, now it's there. Let's see how it looks in game. Okay, look at that. So our tile is now in game, and what's this? It's populated. Yep, because it has a whole bunch of provinces on it, nations have actually spawned, so we can play on it now. How cool is that? So we've got a whole bunch of sea provinces that we drew around it. Looking good. Let's shut the diplomatic map mode so that we can see what kind of provinces we've drawn. So here's one of our wastelands, and here's the other one. When we go to our terrain map mode, we can see that they follow the crest of the mountain pretty well. And I really like that. That's great. Nice little gameplay element there. All the provinces look natural enough. Densely populated this place. Okay, let's hop in and see how it plays. I want to take a look at the terrain that it developed. See if our mountains actually became mountains. Because sometimes they don't. So we'll hop into this Tepetlax nation. Okay, so here we are. So first things first, I want to have a look at our simple terrain. It'll tell us what's what. Okay, and we do indeed have a few mountains. So this province here wound up becoming a mountain province. Added this one, that's great. These provinces are all mountains, very cool. Over here is jungle, and you'll notice that I bet if it was any farther north, this province here would be a mountain as well. But jungle has a way of overriding the height values that would make a province be chosen as a mountain province. So it's a jungle, but that's okay. This province here, also mountains. This is more savanna. That's fine. Mountains over here, jungles up down there, and mountains down here. Well, awesome. I think we made a really cool tile. So what's missing at this point? Well, it doesn't have its own regions. You'll notice here, if I go into observe mode, when I go to regions, it just stole, oh, it got its own region. That doesn't usually happen. Region Yadum. Okay. I suppose for a tile this small, the game gives it its own region. If we had made it any bigger, we would have wanted to define region centers. And that's very simple to do. All the information is in the guide. Now, another thing I might be missing is more flavor elements, like straits, for example, or trade modifiers. And that's something we'll add in the next video, finishing touches. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.